morning, COASI. Good morning. Can you hear me? No? Can you hear me now?
Good morning, everyone.
Can you hear me? Good. All right, good morning. And before I do anything else, I want to thank Rafael Solis, the Corniche Management, the Corniche Association for hosting us this morning. They always do a fabulous job. Is the president of your association? Thank you so much. You do a wonderful job and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. If you're listening on Zoom, please make sure you mute yourself. If you're here in person, please turn your phone off. And we'll have a call to order for the meeting. We'll have a roll call. Barbara Hanson, Frank Fernandez, Bill Control, I know is checking people in outside. Nick Hadley is also outside, and Nick is the newest member of our COASI board, so we're happy he's joined us. When he comes in, we'll have to recognize him. Mike Slosser is, I believe, online. Mike, are you there? And Marty Zippern. So we have a quorum. Thank you. And I'll ask our treasurer to do a quick treasurer's report. Barb?
Good morning. Current bank balance is $6,068. We have some upcoming expenses in addition to the normal incidentals like postage and supplies. We have fees associated that will need to be paid to file the annual reports to the state of Florida. We have, of course, the tax preparer's fee coming up and the board certification course at the AMRID because we provide a light meal for those attending. We are trying to update our database so that we have good contact. If there's anybody here today from the 5000 North Ocean Building, Atrium in Palm Beach Shores, Dunes Towers, Lake Harbor Towers, Palm Beach Shores Apartments, Sea Grape, Villa Towers, or the Wilshire North condos, could you please see me at some point after today's session so we can get the an updated contact information for your building? Appreciate it.
Thank you, Barb. And I'll do a quick president's report. Again, I'm Julie Botel, president of COASI, the Community Officers Association of Singer Island. Very quickly, we have a very important meeting coming up on Tuesday. I don't know if you remember Mike Caruso. You must remember him. He's our clerk and controller, so he's still a very busy public figure in our midst. Mike is no longer our representative in Tallahassee, and there is going to be an election coming up very soon. You may have already gotten your mail-in ballots. We're having a candidates forum on Tuesday night at the Ambassador Center right here on Singer Island. And we're going to have Emily and John, the two candidates, there to answer questions. It's really important that they get to know us now so they carry our issues forward to Tallahassee. So please come. You can sign up for it on our COASI website, coasi.org, and we'd welcome everybody to be there. In addition, we're having a board certification course. You must take a 4-hour course. You're legally required to take this course. And we're providing free with dinner for that on the 23rd of March. Again, go on the website and sign up for it. We have already a few people signed up and we'd like to see as many as possible. Take advantage of it. And in addition to that 4-hour course, now there's a 1-hour course that you have to take. You really want to get you well educated on it. And that's mandatory. And we are looking into how to make that happen for you. There are a couple of ways to do it, and in the next couple of days, we'll send that information about how to get that done. We have 2 additional sessions like this coming up, one about legal safeguards and homeowners' rights, and one about insurance. And those are the last 2 sessions of our season. You can sign up for those also on our COASI website. And in order to decide what sessions to do, we ask you. We say, what would you like to see? Of course, as you can see, this was one of the most requested sessions. And so we had 122 people sign up for this session. You may have gotten my emails to say, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, so you may have seen emails from me to say, please come by Zoom. And many people did because we have about 86 people here. So the 40 people or so that said, okay, I'm not going to drive there. I'll come by Zoom. We appreciate it because it's a little tight here. But we appreciate that Raphael and the Corniche have given us this opportunity. So we will be doing a survey probably in the next couple of months to ask you once again, what do you want to see next season? The other very highly anticipated one was the one where Glenn speaks about what's going on and Alan Fires speak about what's going on in the city and in Palm Beach Shore. So those were two of our highlights for the season, but we want to know what you'd like to see. So please, when you see the survey, respond to it and let us know what you'd like to see. And speaking of Glenn, as is our custom at COASI, we begin our main presentation. Oh, thank you. I want to just say thank you to Nick for joining our board. He was out there taking your names as you came in. Nick is our newest COASI board member. Thanks for joining us, Nick. We're happy to have you with us. Thanks. So before we begin our main presentation, we welcome remarks from our local elected officials, and Glenn Spiritus is here to give you those remarks.
Julie, if everybody can turn your cell phone, your ringer off, that would be great, please. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Corniche for hosting this today. They're always wonderful and they always do a great job in doing this. Raphael, always super. Your staff is great. And thank you to the board for doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job with these meetings today and the previous meetings, Julie. We see tremendous, numbers of people showing up that never showed up here before. So I'm just going to speak briefly about where we are with the beach erosion project, because that's what we're talking about today. For those of you who want an update, I do go around to all the condominiums and give updates. So if you want me to come and give a city update, just let me know and we'll get you on the schedule and we'll spend some time and can have answers and questions, and we'll do that right in your own building if you want to do that. It's up to you. And now the beach erosion. I've been your councilman now for 2 years, and 2 years ago we signed an agreement with the county for 10 years. Where the county was supposed to bring sand to our beaches and rebuild our dunes, clearly for the turtles. But of course, it also fortifies the island from any storm damage. The county, last year, they started the project, and in the middle of the project, they decided that they could not finish the project. They claimed that the tides were too high, they couldn't get their trucks there. So what the city did is we went and did the project ourselves. We finished as much as we could. We spent $600,000. It was the first time the city ever did a beach restoration project on their own. So we used the Sea Winds let us use their easement, and we were able to do all the sand in front of the Via Delfino and a section of the Sea Winds because they had no seawall and they were vulnerable to the hurricane season that was coming. And the project worked well, by the way. We did it. It was fantastic. The project was easy. We were able to do it. But what happened was we used the county's permit in order to do that project. We went out and we piggybacked to get contractors with another municipality to get a contractor in right away. And it worked great. The project was fine. So now here we are this year. And the county, now, many of you probably came to my town hall meeting in the event center where we had all of the county environmental people. And we had our coastal engineers that were hired by the county and the city to look for long-term solutions to the beach erosion, which we hope to have resolved within 5 years. That's what we're shooting for right now. Where the county made it very clear to us that they were not bringing sand this year. Now we have a 10-year agreement. Right? They found a little section in their agreement where they say if there's no money available, they don't have to do the project. So they're using that as an excuse this year not to do the project. That's the main excuse. Then they said that the tides were too high and the trucks couldn't come. Well, we know that that's not really true because we spoke with the seawall contractor, Logan, who's doing most of the seawalls on the island right now. He said he had no problem bringing his cranes and his other trucks and everything on the beach, and that they were not in the way of the county bringing any trucks onto the beach. So the county clearly had the ability to bring the sand onto the beach. The only areas that we have a problem with, of course, are the reaches, the Connemara, and maybe one other area where the county did not bring sand for probably 3 to 4 years. The county, just so that you understand, the county will only do public beaches. They don't want to spend any money on private beaches. So what we've been using was MacArthur Park, the Reef Park, and the Ocean Mall. So you had to be a certain distance under state law of those parks, those public beaches, in order for the county to justify bringing that sand in. So they claim that these buildings, which they haven't been doing for a number of years, were outside of that area where they can spend their money to do it. So in this agreement that we signed with the county, the city agreed to pay extra money to do those beaches. But because they haven't done those beaches in so many years, the water is just smashing up against their seawalls. We are not permitted to put sand in the water or on wet sand. That's state law. So we're caught in a catch-22 right now. We don't know where. We're meeting with state DEP, the city manager, myself, and staff, and we're going to try and see if we can somehow circumvent this on an emergency basis and see if we can get an emergency permit. The county this year, the city manager and I spoke with our county commissioner, who is Maria Marino, and the county environmental staff. We had a big meeting a few weeks ago, trying to convince them to come and bring the sand here. And I brought up to them, I said, you know, we pay a lot of money in county taxes. We don't get a heck of a lot from the county. Most of the services are provided by the city. I said, but we have hotels on Singer Island. You have the Amrit, you have the Marriott Resort, Marriott Vacation, the Hilton. And then I said, we have all the Marriotts in Palm Beach Shores. The response I received, which is mind-boggling to me, was that there's plenty of resorts from Boca Raton all the way to Cresta. That is the response that we received. Unreal. I never heard of anything like that politically in my entire life. But that was it, and that they don't have money. I said, well, you know, you have more than a $5 billion budget. You don't have the city pays, by the way. The city isn't getting this for free. We budget $1 million a year now based on that contract to do beach erosion. So we were asking the county to come up with $1.5 million. It takes about $2.5 million to do a beach dune project. I'm not going to call this a beach restoration project or a shoreline protection project, because it's not. It's just really a dune restoration for turtles. That's the reason that we put the sand here legally with state DEP and everyone else, is for a turtle nesting area. Of course, it serves a dual purpose, fortifies the beach. You should also know that this is not just a Singer Island project. This is a Riviera Beach project and more. Barrier islands protect the mainland. We saw that during Hurricane Sandy up in the New York metropolitan area, New Jersey area. We all saw what happened there. The barrier islands take the initial shock of storm surge, and they protect the barrier islands. If you don't have dunes, the water's just going to go right over the island and go right into the mainland and go 2-3 miles into the mainland, which is what we saw on Long Island during Hurricane Sandy. So we know that that can happen here. So we serve a purpose. We protect the mainland, which includes, by the way, Lake Park and North Palm Beach. So without our area being fortified, they're vulnerable. So this is a very important project to the whole area, to the whole region. But for some reason, the county is giving us a hard time. But the city is prepared to spend its money to do the entire project. Problem, the county will not let us use their permit. They advised us, they advised, well, this is a county issue, but we will be speaking to the governor. We're speaking to other county commissioners this week, where we have meetings set up with all the county commissioners to see if we can get them on board, or at least to let us use the permit. For us to get an emergency permit, we're going to be right into turtle season, and it'll be very, very hard to get that permit. It'll be very hard to work around the turtles, because you have to hire turtle inspectors after March 1st when you do your project. And if they see a turtle nest, that happened to us last year, by the way, when we were doing the seedlings, we had to cut short about 75 feet of what we wanted to bring sand on the beach because they found a turtle nest, and they stopped us at that point. So it's much easier to do it, obviously, before turtle season. But we thought we were going to be able to beat it a few weeks ago, and then the county told us we could not use their permit. So we're prepared to go through with this in March and April, as they are in Juneau and Jupiter, by the way. They extended their season. They're going to be going into April as well. So we're going to fight very, very hard We're gonna need all of you to fight. I know that Frank is gonna speak to members of the board on how you can assist the city in making this happen, because this is not something that we can take lightly. We all live here for the beach. And we all want our buildings protected as well. Seawalls, by the way, the county, if you remember a few years ago, I mean, Julie, you held a town hall meeting and the county told us not to build seawalls. I said, nope, do not build seawalls. It's the worst thing you could do, don't build seawalls. Well, at the public hearing on December 16th that I held this year, they told us all to build seawalls. Total 180, they changed their entire position. So almost all the buildings at the north end of the island, which is where we have this issue, obviously, are building seawalls. You know, the Water Glades built theirs a few years ago. They're finishing up right now at the Dunes condominium, the Aquarius, and the Seagrave. They're finishing their project right now. Ocean's Edge is finishing their project right now. Via Delfino is finishing their project right now. East Point did theirs last year. There are a number of buildings that are getting ready right now. 5,000 is trying to get a seawall permit approved. I know that the beachfront people are interested. They're looking into a seawall. I know the Côte d'Azur is looking into a seawall. At that point, which is really where Pine Point Road is, if you go from that point north, that's where we really need the seawalls. And if any of you watched the city council meeting last week, I tried to make it mandatory for the building that's trying to come on the vacant lot next to the Martinique and the Oasis. I didn't get the council to agree to it, but we have a second reading. I think I'll be successful. And then in the second reading to make sure the developer puts in, if we approve the project, puts in a seawall. We want to put that in the ordinance to require any new buildings that go in, they have to put a seawall in. It's expensive, but it's worthwhile, and it shouldn't have to be on the new people that are moving into the buildings to have to pay for it later on. Because we know now that these seawalls could cost 4 million, 5 million and up. So it's not cheap. If the county would have told us to do this all years and years and years ago, we would have saved a lot of money. Those buildings that did their seawalls years ago, that was the smartest thing that you did. I know that the Water Glades, for example, we spent about 4.2 million on 1,400 linear feet of seawall. I believe that the Ocean's Edge spent about the same thing on about 450 feet of seawall. So things, right? Doug, is that about what they paid in that range? So you see the difference in the prices in just a few years. So please, it's not going to get any cheaper. So if you're planning on doing the seawall, I would move on it, because the price is only going to go up. And of course, it's going to protect your property. What does a seawall do? It protects your property. The dune takes the initial shock it's supposed to of a storm surge. And then the seawall, when the dune disappears, is supposed to keep the water from getting onto your property. The seawall it's not 100% proof. You know, you get a type 5 hurricane, the water will go over the seawall, obviously, if it's at high tide, but it's going to mitigate the damage. So it's very important that you have the seawall. You know, your flood insurance does not cover your landscaping and your sidewalks and anything that's outside the perimeter of your building. So that could be millions and millions and millions of dollars in damage without even talking about your physical building itself. So it pays to put a seawall in right now. I believe that it pays to put a seawall in. So that's where we are right now. We're going to need your assistance. Frank and the board are going to talk to you about how you can help us in the future on this project. But the city is moving forward, working hard, and we're going to try and get you some sand this year. We're going to do our best. Yes, sir.
Talking about. If we're successful in doing the kind of things you're talking about, is that a temporary solution to a permanent problem? What has to be done on a, oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Oh, okay.
that's Susan.
I don't want to take away from Susan.
But yes. Yes, but yes, Susan will go into this in her presentation, but in the agreement that the city did with the county, we hired a coastal engineering firm that's looking into long-term solutions, because we know that we put the sand up, it's going to disappear, it's going to end up being part of your beach. So we're looking into long-term solutions right now. The engineers said at the meeting, they're looking into what they feel they can get a permit for. We have a lot of solutions, but you can't get a permit for a lot of these solutions. A lot of you all go back to when we were talking about all kinds of breakwaters and everything, which never happened for one reason or another. But we are looking into long-term solutions. What can be permitted? Will it be putting a a pipe under the dunes? Will be Sue's going to talk into all these things. There's a lot of options, and Sue will go into it in great detail. It's very complicated, but Susan's going to make it so we can all understand it.
Thank you very
Thank
much, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, we'll take questions at the end. And by the way, if you are on chat, if you are on Zoom, and we have about 40 people watching via Zoom, so that's great. If you are on Zoom and you want to have a question, please put something in the chat at the bottom of your screen. I don't see Mayor Fires, and I do not see the new incoming mayor of Palm Beach Shores. So I think that they may not have been able to attend today. So we'll get right to the meat of our meeting. So this clearly is one of the most urgent issues facing Singer Island. And so today is dedicated entirely to that issue. And we're so pleased to introduce someone who has been deeply engaged in this issue. Sue Melamud is a board certified environmental engineer with more than 50 years of experience. She started as a very young child in water systems and environmental protection. Before retiring in 2024, she served for over 30 years as a vice president of Hazen & Sawyer, one of the nation's leading environmental consulting firms specializing in water supply and treatment. Today, she's serving as project management consultant to the City of Riviera Beach and the Utility Special District, helping oversee the city's new $400 million water treatment plant, one of the most significant infrastructure investments in our community's history. Susan and her husband have lived in the Corniche for the past 5 years. And in 2024, she helped form the grassroots Singer Island Environmental Committee. That committee successfully petitioned Palm Beach County's commissioners and Riviera Beach Council members to jointly undertake a beach protection feasibility study, which, as you have heard, is now underway. So this morning, she's going to walk us through the goals of that study, where things stand, and what it could mean for the future of our shoreline. Sue, welcome.
So good morning, everybody. So as a speaker, but even more importantly, as a Singer Island resident, it's extremely heartwarming to see such a huge crowd so interested in this topic as it is important to me. And as many people on Zoom as well, so welcome. I'm going to be talking today about saving our shoreline. About a year ago, I was here also giving a similar talk, but that was in the early stages of the feasibility study. So the county had just approved with the city to jointly undertake a feasibility study. And today I'm going to give you an update as to what's going on and what we can expect. It's not advancing. Got to solve our technical difficulty. Do I need to click it onto? Okay, well, I want my talk is pretty much along the lines of the slides. So I'm going to give a little bit of a recap of last year's talk where what is this all about? Why do we have to protect our beaches, and what has the city and county done to date? And then after that recap, I'll go into the feasibility study. Can't really say too much more until I got my slides. Okay, can you put in the slide mode? Okay, let's hope that works. So first I'll be going over a little bit about the history of beach erosion, what the city and county have been doing, and Glenn gave you a little bit of background on that. Most importantly, we'll focus on the feasibility study that's currently being performed, what protection measures they're looking at, what going to happen, what are the current problems with that, and what the next steps are. Should I try it from here? Can we advance it from the computer? I'll just push it from the computer and that's fine. Not a problem. All right. Yeah, I'll just use it from the computer mouse. Okay. So which is the, all right, I'll just use, I'm sorry, I'd like to stand in front of you, but I'll just do it from the computer. Okay. Okay, yeah, why don't we do that? Okay, so next slide. Next slide. So the first thing we have to realize, and I think you may have even seen it in the news this week, we are not alone. All of the Palm Beaches are affected by erosion, as are those in Martin County, Port St. Lucie. There was an article that I saw on the news where Port St. Lucie houses were about to over their precipice into the water, and Palm Beach, it's St. Lucie County, brought in a whole bunch of sand to try to rescue them. In addition, while Palm Beach County may be refusing to do our work, they are doing other beach restoration work in Palm Beach County. The areas of the arrows show where there's not a lot of erosion. And the reasons for that are, there's no development there. When you develop close to the beach, this is the process that causes erosion. Next slide. So anybody want to take a guess as to what year the upper slide was? Yes, late 50s, early 60s. You can see a huge beach. Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? It's a huge beach and there's no development. Once all the development came in, which is what we have today, and you can see also on that bottom slide, some of the buildings are very close to the ocean and some have buffers. And the ones that have buffers have wider beaches. Next slide. One of the problems is that our beaches are considered to be private, and this is a big issue. Private beaches do not qualify under Florida law for restoration. And here's what a public beach is defined as. You have to have an access point every half a mile, and that has to have parking. In addition, it has to allow land that public access to the beach. There's only a few areas that qualify on Singer Island. You've got MacArthur Park down to East Point, and you've got Ocean Reef Park to Sea Winds, and everything in the middle is not. And right here where we're sitting is not. Yeah,
Right, so the beach access ramps do not count as a public beach because you have to have parking and restrooms.
okay. So as a result, the county and the city are responsible for beach replenishment. Next slide. Beach replenishment, however, is a temporary fix. Looking for so up to 2024, the county had been doing some beach replenishment, and our councilman had been really spearheading a 10-year agreement, which, as he told you, they're not honoring this year. The cost share was supposed to be 80% county, 20%, except for this one portion in the middle, which is 50-50. And it was going to be about $1 million a year. Next slide. Yes, city share. So one of the things you heard was, oh, there's seawall construction. Well, there is a lot of seawall construction. It does affect ability and timing for replenishment. The sand has to be dry. You have to have unobstructed access to bring the sand in. And as you heard, the county is declining to perform this work for us. Our city manager has contacted EPA and is going to try to get this overridden. And we've only been offered, instead of the 80%, 20% portion, now we're being offered that's 20% reimbursement cost, which is pretty paltry. Next slide. We have to recognize that seawalls protect our property. They do not protect our beaches. So right now we have in progress, we have Ocean's Edge, we have East Point, Aquarius, Delfino. It's been a lot more completed now that they've done a lot of pile driving, but that one's almost finished. And they have more, as Glenn was telling you. They impede access for the beach, and they can also contribute toward beach erosion because they create a perpendicular wall. And that at that point is where all the sand can start to erode. Next slide. So, and push it again, please. I have it animated. Push the slide, push the slide. What are you doing? Push the slide again. So, yeah, so it's really a tug of war and a chicken or egg situation. Which comes first? Turtle migration and nesting or beach protection? Well, one really affects the other. That's the point. Next slide. On the one hand, we have our nesting sea turtles. They love our beaches. You can see that really in MacArthur Park is really the epicenter for it, but we do have quite a bit of turtle nesting on the beaches when we had dunes. And the state takes it very seriously. However, we had a lot of king tides in October and November, and they severely eroded our beaches, as you can see. And as a result, it has a severe decline in turtle nesting habitat. So one does affect the other. You don't protect the beach, you lose the turtle habitat. You put in a beach protection measure, well, maybe it interferes with turtle migration. And this is a vicious cycle that we're seeing. Next slide. So just a little history on permanent measures for beach protection. Back in 2006, Palm Beach County recommended breakwaters over the entire length pretty much of Singer Island. And they actually got the project funded for $30 million. A group of environmental organizations came in and contested the findings of the Army Corps of Engineers that it would not affect turtle migration. And as a result, the project was given the kibosh. It was rejected, and the FDP said at this point in time, there will be no structural beach protection measures, period. Next slide. So we mobilized and we got together to get the county and the city to jointly fund a beach protection study. They agreed in late 2024 to start this work. They drafted a scope of work and they sent it to the county did, and they sent it to Riviera Beach to review. I was one of those reviewers, and it was a very good, solid, thorough study. They issued a request for proposals. And what happens is the county has, and the city has a process where they pre-qualify service providers of engineering type services. So they have a list of 3 or 4 parties who can perform the work. They go to each of those parties and say, what's your cost? And then they award it. They awarded it to a company called Forth Olson. It's a coastal engineering firm. The study is just under $500,000. And again, it is jointly funded by Palm Beach County and the city of Riviera Beach. It's currently underway. So here's what the study is going to do. First, they're going to perform an investigation of tidal and beach conditions. They're going to look at wave action, erosion patterns, and also turtle migration. They're going to identify protection measures that look at long-term stabilization. They're going to use computer modeling. That's why it's important to have a coastal engineering firm perform something like that, because they specialize in this area. They're going to simulate the performance of each measure to see what would be most effective. But more important, and this is critical to the study, is that they are going to look at what can be permitted. Because you can come up with the greatest scheme, and if you can't get approval for it, it's not going to get done, as you saw back in 2006. So then they will estimate the costs. They'll identify any logistic issues associated with implementing it, and they'll recommend the most cost-effective measures that can be permitted in their opinion. So last year, when I gave a presentation on this subject, I went over a whole smorgasbord of types of things that could be done to protect beaches. On the left, we have offshore. Breakwaters, groins and jetties, seaweed beds, artificial reefs. We talked a little bit about what each of those does and how effective they are. We also looked at onshore measures to stabilize the dunes. I don't believe they're going to be looking at onshore measures for this particular study. They're going to be concentrating on offshore measures. Here's what they're looking at. And they gave a presentation, I think it was back in December, late November, early December, about what they're doing. So they're they're looking at segmented breakwaters, and there are two kinds: parallel to the beach or offshore, near or offshore. They're looking at T-groins and short profile groins. I'm going to explain what each of these are in a minute. They have to worry about the hard bottom, which I'll talk about, and put in some artificial type of reefs to replace lost hard bottom. And they have to seed the beaches to get started. So I'm going to go into each one of these items and how it works. Next. It works. Thank you. It works. It's a miracle. Okay, thank you, Raphael. Okay, so the first one is segmented breakwaters. And those can be near shore or further offshore. When they're near shore, they focus on protecting habitat. When they're offshore, they focus on protecting beaches. And you can see pictures near shore on the left and offshore on the right. And on the bottom is also near shore. They've used these all over Florida. We've got Peanut Island on the West Coast, on Marco Island. I'm down in Miami Beach and a lot of other locations. And they're pretty effective. Once, if you see them that are not submerged, they come up above sea level, they can be up to 70% effective. They're much less effective if they're submerged. However, they affect hard bottom. I'll explain a little bit about what hard bottom is. It's natural outcropping of rock that you see. You can see windows in many of our condos. As you look out in the ocean, you can see the under the water hard bottom. So that is definitely an effect. The next thing they're looking at are T-groins. They are a wall that has a perpendicular T-shaped spur at the end. What they do is they break up the waves. They diffract them, they break them up, and they create eddies. The eddies retain sand, and they help compartmentalize the beach. You can design them to different lengths, and then you also have to protect the hard bottom, replenish it, and you have to replenish the beach. This particular one here is used at Fisher Island, down in the North Miami area. This is what it would look like if they put in T-groins. Would be, maybe like every, say, 500 feet or so, and it would cover the entire length of the island. So that's one concept. Here's another. Short, low-profile groins. So they go further, they don't extend as far out, they're shorter. What happens here is it reduces downdrift. You don't see the little curve between them. It prevents the soil from migrating in that manner. That also has to be accompanied by beach replenishment and hard bottom remediation. This particular one here on the picture is Deerfield Beach. It depends. It would be slowed down from what you see now, but yes, it would be periodic, period to be determined. Okay, so here's what they're doing right now. They're performing field investigations. They've installed these buoy wave gauges, and they're measuring the wave action and other bathymetric parameters. They started in October. Now, mind you, study was approved last year. I believe the contract started in July of 2025, and they actually got underway with their buoys and other work in October. They need an 18-month or so data collection period in order to have enough data to do their modeling. So it is a long data collection period. They also looked at all of the data they could get for the periods from 1979 through 2024 to enhance their model as a baseline. And now they're developing wave attenuation models as they are collecting this data. This is what we mean by downdrift. When you have something like a groin, you change the shape and flow of the water, and you take soil accretes on one side and soil depletes on the other side. That's why you need series of them. So accrete, decrete, so that you don't affect the overall beach line. So they're going to be looking at the effectiveness of each of these types of beach protection measures and the effect on downdrift. That's a very important consideration when they have to go for permits. They're also looking at the environmental impacts on turtles, birds, and fish, and what the state and federal permit requirements are and how they could comply with them. And next, they have to look at cost and logistics, as I mentioned earlier. There are a lot of regulatory considerations. So first of all, you've got a host of agencies that have to be satisfied. You've got Fish and Wildlife, you've got the DEP, which governs submerged lands. The Fish and Wildlife focusing on turtles and other marine animals. And you also have the National Marine Fisheries, which is on fish. In addition, you've got the Florida Uniform Mitigation Assessment Rule. This is the hard bottom that I was talking about. I'm going to read it to you. Hard bottom resources can only be adversely affected, as it would be if you had to anchor a jetty to it. Their only impacts are justified if impacts are justified, avoided, and or minimized to the extent possible. So this is what's meant by mitigating hard bottom effects when you put in these other measures. That's going to be a key consideration in getting permits. Hard bottom is located pretty much throughout the entire length of the island, and it is used, as rock outcroppings are used as a reef. They are a fish food source and also a turtle food source. So when you affect them, you need to replace them. The engineer predicted that they would have to use artificial reefs to replace them at a cost of $1.5 million to $4 million per acre. And there's a lot of acres, as I'm going to show you in a picture in a minute. It must not impede turtle migration and nesting, and it's going to be a permit process that takes about 2 years. The engineer predicted that the cost of permitting will be about $100,000, and that they will have to do annual monitoring at, get this, $500,000. So this is our hard bottom, and you'll see the outcropping from your windows. It's pretty much the entire length. We have a lot of acres of hard bottom there, as you can see. So that all has to be mitigated with artificial reefs. Artificial reefs are also effective in attenuating waves. They can be constructed of a wide range of materials. We've seen tires and coral and shells, and bottom is called reef balls. They do require FDEP permits, even though they look holistic and they look natural. They require the same permitting as with jetties and breakwaters. So, I think there's no effect of beach erosion on turtle laying eggs. This was a picture I grabbed off the internet for not particularly Singer Island, but it's in the area. And you can see that it's a really damaging effect. So Falk-Olson, when you do an environmental analysis, one of the things you have to look at is called the no action scenario. And that's what they're looking at. What would happen if we take no action? This is what happens. Sea turtle nesting has been severely impacted by beach erosion. And so the DP needs data to support any proposal to construct structures, and it has to support how it would promote sea turtle nesting. In addition, the county is lobbying the state to change its rule about private beaches so that all the beaches could be benefiting from the beach protection measures as well as from periodic replenishment measures. This could result in what we call a sea change with respect to the FDEP, to coin upon. They may have a complete turnabout in how they look at beach protection versus how they looked about it back in 2006 to 2011 when they stopped the original project. Yes, I'm almost done actually. So one thing I want to stress, everybody wants this done right away, and I'm going to disappoint you and tell you that that's not going to happen. First of all, this feasibility study will be done in July of 2027. That's when they'll have finished taking all the data, doing all the modeling, coming up with their plan, and also involves with coordination with the all of the agencies that I showed you. I'll be talking to them, making sure that whatever they're going to be proposing is looked at favorably. Then they have to do an environmental impact study, which is a public process. You have to have a lead agency, which would probably either be the county or the city or a combination of the two. And that could take a year. You have a draft, you have comments, you incorporate comments, and you issue a final. That takes about a year and a half. Design takes about half a year. You could do some overlap design with your environmental review process, but you take a risk that you spend money on the design and then you don't get it permitted. Then you have funding and permitting after the environmental impact is done, a year to 2 years. Construction, a year to 2 years. And ta-da, 6 to 8 year overall time for implementing any kind of measures that they come up with in July of 2027. So what we have to remember is that we matter. All of the city's beaches are located on Singer Island. They have no other beaches but ours. Whatever happens to our beaches affects tourism and overall economy, as well as property values. Our property values go down, they get less taxes. This year, we were contributing 53% of Riviera Beach property taxes, and Glenn has told me that he predicts 55% for next year. So if our values go down, it definitely affects the city's economy and the county's economy because we pay a good proportion of our taxes to the county. So what you can do, first of all, attend meetings. There's a meeting coming up that Glenn will tell us about on beach, that we can talk about beach protection and the issues that he raised. Express your concern, write to them, lobby to change the regulations about public beaches. And then we're also going to be talking about a petition effort. Frank Fernandez is going to talk to us about that, of how we can address the immediate problem of not getting our beaches replenished. Before we go into questions, I would like to pose a few of my own. These are some of the questions I've been asked when I've given similar talks. So they're kind of universal questions. Why won't the FDP approve emergency measures since they protect turtle nesting habitat? Well, it's one of the reasons is now that they're doing all of the seawalls, and they will approve some emergency measures, but it takes considerable amount of time, and you have to have the data behind you to prove that it's going to work. This was what Glenn was talking about. Look at all the access points we have. Those are not considered public beaches, even though it's a public access point, because there's no park. People have to walk, so it's only local people. It's not inviting people from other areas to be able to use the thing. So they don't apply, they don't, they do not qualify for using state funds. Why can't we construct beach protection measures that were approved and being used elsewhere? Well, Peanut Island has it, and Marco Island has it, and Fisher Island have it. Why can't we? Each particular measure is specific to the site and has to be supported with the data, just like what Fort Olson is doing. Because it applies at one, it isn't transportable to another location, unfortunately. And why can't the flat portions of our beach be extended? Let's put sand out there, raise the profile of the beach so the water can't reach the dunes. Not legal, state law prevents it. So, and why can't we drive sand drenched from other locations to replenish our beaches? Well, it is. When we get our beaches replenished, it is from dredged sand. There's always the north-south dredging issue. And also sometimes when you see dredging out deep in front of us, it creates a rift that causes sand to build up and doesn't come to our beach. So it could actually hurt us if they dredge too close to our beaches. I'm sure there's lots of other questions, so I will turn it over to the audience.
One
I
second.
know John had
We're
questions.
gonna have two microphones. Betty's gonna take the people in the back and then I'm gonna take the people in the front. Just give me 1 second.
And online, people have.
Okay, John had asked the questions. I want John to go first, and then I'll take as many as you want to throw at me.
So basically, we have two situations, one permanent, one temporary.
Hmm.
So your opinion, what are the chances of the temporary situation taking place in the next year or so? And two, based upon what you said, what's your opinion of the permanent situation being successful in the next 6 years or so?
Okay, so temporary measures being beach replenishment is what Glenn was talking about that we're working on. We're going to be, I think Frank and the board are going to talk to everybody about writing a petition and trying to, you saw how effective petitions were, by the way, when we did the petition to get the study. So I think if everybody in all the condos gets together and does a petition effort, we will be a very loud voice in trying to get the temporary problem solved. And I think we'll probably be successful if we all push hard. For the the permitting, as I said, I think there is an attitude change where they saw what the no action did. The turtles are essentially gone from this area because of beach erosion. So they have to think, well, we really need to do something. And if we can get the turtles back. So I think they stand a much better chance, also with a very well thought out study backed by a tremendous amount of data going all the way back to historically 20 years plus new data. So I think there's a very good chance that they will come up with a successful approach.
It's a very nice presentation, informative. I appreciate it very much. Seems to me, so we have a situation I would call an emergency. In my opinion, is somebody have to contact governor and involve governor in this issue, especially when it's the issue between city and the county. So it would be under emergency situation. Second thing is, I'm from Michigan, and because of overfishing, we have fishery hatching, and 1 million small fish getting released. They planting them, fish laying eggs, they grow them, and when they're ready, release into the Lake of Michigan and other Great Lakes. For you to negotiate something with some agency, how about you will offer them solution to create turtle hatchery? Let's say you will call, probably there is data available, how many turtles are hatched every year, and double this amount, triple this amount, and create turtle hatchery. So in this case, you will have satisfied several agencies. So we not just taking away something from nature, we give it back 3 times more. And unfortunately, you provided so much information. I didn't have paper. I wrote notes on napkins. So my third point is you need to create a think tank. People from different environment, different city, different states, come up and with every issue, come up with set of solutions. Not everything will work, but certain things will work. It's expedited. I trained 8 years. In 8 years, I will look for next bathroom and not care much about erosion of the beach. So anything you can do to reduce cycle time would be good.
Okay, let me try to answer all 3. So first, the governor situation. I mean, that is something where we all working on petitions, Glenn working on our behalf, our council working on our behalf. I'm going to be approaching the governor. I would.
Just, we were up in Tallahassee just about 3-4 weeks ago, and we met with our state legislators, and we're lobbying with them. We've already been speaking with our lobbyists to lobby the governor's office to come up with some ideas to help us. So we are working with the state and the governor on this right now. We understand how important it is. But with respect to the turtles, I just want you to know that the county, one of the things that they told us that why they don't want to bring sand on the beach is because they want to study to see what the impact of no dunes would be on turtle nesting. I mean, I never heard of anything like that in my whole life. We know what the results are. They've already done studies on this. When you don't have dunes, you don't have turtles, period. Pretty simple.
Okay, so the other question, a think tank. Well, this is a very complicated issue. I'm not a coastal engineer. My specialty is water and wastewater, and I don't profess to be an expert on how these coastal systems work. There's a whole dynamic that has to get modeled. I think it's in good hands with coastal engineering firm. They are a think tank. That is what they're doing. They have done this at other locations, and they're bringing their knowledge of what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's in very good hands where it is. As far as making a hatchery type situation, that is something that would have to be approved because you are now interfering with Mother Nature. You are making something artificial. And sure, you can do that, but hatcheries would have to be something that Fish and Wildlife would have to approve.
First question online.
Okay.
It's a four-part question. How far south are we experiencing beach erosion? Why is it more severe in the northern part of the island? Where is the area of primary concern? Where is the area or primary concern? Are Amrit and buildings south of it experiencing beach erosion?
Okay, so you saw the picture, and as you can see our island, as you go down the island, the buildings are further and further away from the start of the beach. Many of them are protected by vegetation and large areas where there is no construction, and those buildings have larger beaches. And so probably I would say from about half a mile south of here, from the Ocean Reef Beach south is not as big a problem on erosion. Oh, they do have erosion. The beaches have gotten smaller. They're still large beaches. So the problem is really occurring north of Ocean Reef Park. Natural flows of the currents bring sand from the north to the south. So you get erosion. It makes sense that it would be coming from the northern end down. However, if you look at MacArthur State Park, the beach is huge. Why is the beach huge? There's nothing there. It's complete buffer area. So what we've done is we've essentially done it to ourselves. Whenever you develop near the beach and you enjoy a beautiful being on the beach atmosphere, you also sort of guarantee that your beach is going to erode over time, which is why it's important to take these types of protection measures. What do you want to get going?
I'm glad Susan brought up MacArthur Park. You have to remember that obviously the sand, as Susan said, is going from north to south. The littoral flow that's the occurrence are going 90% of the time are going from north to south. The problem that we have right now is that MacArthur Park will not let any sand come onto their beach. They will not do a dredging project. Our sand, by the way, does not come from dredging. It comes from mines, sand mines. We actually bring our sand in from Fort Pierce by truck. That's why you see all the dump trucks when we do it. But MacArthur Park believes God giveth, God taketh. So they will not let them bring sand there. So your source of sand right now, at least on the temporary basis, is the water glaze. So if the water glaze does not get sand, you don't have a source of sand, mostly probably 75% of the time. So we are working with the state to try and get them to speak to the MacArthur Park board to see if they would consider bringing sand onto their beach to help stabilize us. So that's a very important point. And Susan also brought up the dredging offshore, which they do. We've all seen the dredge boats, about a quarter of a mile offshore. The United Nations Environmental Council put a report together a few years back and warned every nation not to dredge in front of barrier islands because it does create that trench that Susan brought up, and it expedites the erosion on the barrier islands. So they warned everybody, but we basically ignore it. The Army Corps of Engineers, by the way, is the agency that tells you where you can dredge sand from. So we have to talk to the Army Corps of Engineers. We expect to go up to Jacksonville in the next couple of months and speak with the Corps of Engineers and see if they have any ideas, because the funding eventually for this whole project will come from the Shoreline Protection Program that the Army Corps of Engineers has. I worked with one of those projects up on Long Island. It was a very big one, about 10 miles of beach. And I could tell you that we actually did that project, Susan. We did the design work and everything, and this was all brand new jetties, which are groins, by the way, a groin field. One groin is called a jetty, and many of them are called groins. It's a groin field. So we were able to do that. We pumped sand onto the beach. We raised the height of the beach. We brought the beach out. We designed all new jetties, groin fields. We designed all new dunes. We did all of this in a 3-year period. So maybe we can get everyone to expedite this. I don't know what the possibilities are, but we will work with the our engineers and the county and the state to see if we could do this maybe in a 5-year period rather than an 8-year period.
Can I just ask a question?
Well, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about federal involvement in this. I mean, we've got county reps here and we've got city reps here, which is great. And you're gonna go talk to the governor, which is great as well. What about our Congress people? Are they involved? Do they have any interest in it? It seems to be very much a bipartisan issue. What's their view on it? Or is it?
Okay, well, I can tell you, I've been speaking with Congressman Mast on this. He's very concerned about it. He's gonna work with us on this issue. I could tell you, we're gonna try and get an appropriation from him this year for sand replenishment for the turtle nesting area. So he is concerned. He will be working with us with the Corps of Engineers. Obviously, for us to get to the right people at the Corps of Engineers, we need our members of Congress to help us. So we are working with our congressional members. The
But do
Corps
they-
will be having to approve anything that we do, and they will be a major part of the funding cycle.
But it strikes me that it affects the entire state, right? So it's Congress people from all over the state and whatever their caucuses are should be really pushing as well. It's a bipartisan issue. It's not.
No, you're right about that, but everybody seems to look out for their own little district. So right now, we're working with them here on this, but yes, it is a statewide issue.
Yeah,
No
be good if
question.
he,
It's actually a national issue. It's not just statewide. But there are people. I remember when I studied environmental engineering in school, I had a professor from Amsterdam who basically said, you don't build, we're not going to bring sand anywhere. He believed, he was an extremist, God giveth, God taketh. He said, no. And he wrote the book Design with Nature, by the way, that everybody uses for these issues. And their belief is that climate change comes, takes everything away. That's tough luck. You don't build cities within 50 miles of the ocean. This is what they write in their book. This is what they preach. No city should be built within 50 miles of the ocean. When I said, how about Miami? How about New York? How about Boston? They really weren't interested. So when they write their regulations and everything, these are the people that are writing the regulations and writing these studies. That's one thought that a lot of people have in that environmental industry. Hopefully, we're going to get people that have common sense to work with us. Yeah. Right. Obviously, the beaches are very wide in the southern end because we have that large jetty there where, to keep the inlet open. When they built the inlet, the sand was filling in, obviously. So they built the jetty, and the jetty catches the sand on the north side. As Susan said before, jetties work. We know they work. But what happens is you have to have a jetty every 500 feet or 300 feet because you build up sand on the north side, but you lose sand on the south side. So you have to have jetties down the whole beach in order for it to work. But right now we have this large jetty at the south end. And what happens is the sand is building up so much, it actually is going through the jetty and filling into the inlet. So what they do is you see the pumping station there. There's a pumping station at the end of the inlet. That pumping station is owned by Palm Beach, but the county runs the pumping station. They maintain it and run it, but the town of Palm Beach owns it. So what they do is they take that sand that's building up on the north side and in the inlet itself, and they dump it onto Palm Beach. because they believe the sand belongs to Palm Beach because the littoral flow goes north to south. So the policy is that you can't bring sand from the south to the north. Yet we all look at the dredge boats a quarter mile offshore picking up sand, and where do they bring that sand? Juno Beach and Jupiter. That sand is going north. So to me, it's selective enforcement. I've been trying to get them to put a pipe underneath the dunes, build a pipe system going from south to north, and you can have 3 or 4 openings, and they can pump the sand from the south to the north a couple of times a year. There's plenty of sand there for Palm Beach and for Singer Island. There's no reason. But the only excuse they're using right now why that can't work is they can't bring sand from south to north. So we're continuing that discussion. It's not over yet, but we're still having that discussion. My opinion is that's the best way to do it. You know, just keep bringing the sand around and around and around. But we'll see if we can convince them to do that. That will be one option that we'll be looking at. We're looking at it right now.
Yeah, hi, Ned Lights with One Singer. We're right in the middle of a section that essentially has no beach right now. We're not a beachfront condominium anymore. Low tide, we have maybe a foot of water, and at high tide, we have 3 and 4 foot waves that are crashing. And it's impacting property values now, not in the future. Now we have 3 of 15 units that are for sale for over a year. The prices keep dropping and dropping. And every time a prospective buyer comes, they ask me as a president, when are we going to have a beach back? And I have to tell them it's 5, 6 plus years away. Every one of them has walked away from purchasing the building. We even have one that's going to have to go to auction because we're not a beachfront property anymore. And it's an immediate issue for us.
I totally get that. This is why it's so important for us to do this petition that we're going to be talking about. Everybody needs to get their buildings to sign to petition for the county to honor its agreement. And if they put in more dunes, they will improve the beaches in these areas. And we need to get, as Glenn said, we need to try to expedite this permanent solution process. I feel for you. I totally get it. Yes, please.
I have a question that says, I live in the Martinique. Is this area public or private beach? I think you answered that question already in the fact that it's not public because it's not got parking, right?
Yeah.
Next is several of the pictured alternatives, protective measures did not extend to the beachfront condominium. Is that an accurate depiction or were the illustrations shortened to fit on the slides?
They're short to fit on the slide.
Okay, in
Yeah,
other words, how far south on Singer Island are these measures being?
Right, they would, so if right, it would be the entire length of the beach. It was just a depiction of how it would look over an extended length. But yes, anything that would happen because of the downdrift, you can't afford to not put it in one area and put it in another because you will affect the downdrift and you will starve one side of the beach. So it's has to be evenly placed throughout the entire length of the lot.
Then there was a quick question about, does Riviera Beach pump the sand from the canal to the Palm Beach? And I think Glenn answered that. Why is the northern half of the island impacted more? Is dredging impacting Singer Island?
Yeah, we talked about why and how the flow and how development and the proximity to the beach. Okay. Yeah.
Susan, your presentation is fantastic until the end.
Disappointment,
The 8
right?
years is just something really, for me, it's unacceptable. I hope for everybody in this room, it's unacceptable. We have to do something now. Wow. What can we do? First, I would like to ask you, the presentation that was proposed in 2006, I think you said, there was an Army Corps of Engineers.
That was for
breakwaters.
They were for breakwaters.
Yes, we need to bring that back. I understand there was one vote because of the turtles. We no longer have turtles. We have no beach. We have no beach for the turtles. We have no beach for us. We need to bring that back. We need to get TV stations, ABC. We need to get NBC, CBS. We need publicity. We need to get to the governor. I think the gentleman Yakov mentioned a number of great things. We have a natural rock formation. We need to do something that we don't have 5 years. We don't have 8 years. We have no time. Every morning I look out my window, the water's hitting our seawall. This is a disaster for us. We need to do something now. And I believe the Okay, but we need to, we need to dredge up, no pun intended. We need to dredge up the old plan that was voted down because of one person on that board, because of the turtles, and we need to bring that back. We already have it. We don't need to wait 5 years for a study. We need,
Let me answer.
but just don't say something negative. You gotta say something that, you must say something that we're
She's
gonna
have
do
to
this.
say the
and we're gonna
truth,
do it.
though.
Trying to be
She has to
truthful
say the
and
truth.
truthful with everything. So bringing, first of all, breakwaters, if you notice, was one of the issues, one of the measures that is being considered. So bringing back breakwaters, that is one of the things Fort Olson is doing. It may be that groins are more effective or could be more easily permitted. So why bring back something if the state isn't going to approve it? Well, maybe groins would be approved, and maybe groins could be done. Okay. I share your passion for it. I would love to see it done right away. We're not in control.
Yeah, maybe I can answer that. I mean, that's why we did a 10-year agreement with the county, because we knew how long it was gonna take to come up with a long-term solution. So we knew that we had to bring sand almost on a yearly basis during that period so that we can maintain the beach and protect our seawalls. By the way, all of you, check your seawalls. We have a coastal engineer here. When your seawalls get exposed to the salt air, they're going to be damaged, and you're going to have to paint them, maintain them. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So the more that they let this happen, the more expenses we're going to have. Not only your property values, just maintaining the seawall itself is going to be very, very
Okay,
expensive.
we want to thank everyone. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to Frank's issue about the petition, because that is something we can do now. At least we can petition. And I think everybody in this room has probably signed it. We made enough copies for everybody to see it. Frank is going to speak very briefly about that. So
I'll be here if you want to come and ask me questions personally.
Yeah, real quick, Glenn's gonna be here. Sue's gonna be here, everyone will be here offline. You can ask a million questions. We've already answered them. We've been through them. Now let's go back to the petition drive. If you remember the original petition drive, myself, Susan, and others bombarded the island. We took those positions and we bombarded city council, city manager, and we also bombarded our county. I know it was effective. Number one, Marino, our county representative, contacted Evans. What the heck is going on in Singer Island? What are all these petitions? And it led to Fort Olson being hired in order to address this. Now we need another petition going on because the county is dragging their feet. Okay, we know the county can find 1.5 million in a $5 billion budget. That's BS. We know the city has been able to use their county permit. Now they say, no, that's BS. It ain't flying. So what we need is we need to get these petitions going. I will be sending them out. It will be on the COASI.org website. Fill them out, send it to us. I'll be on the website, how to send it. We'll make sure it's explained. I will also we have everybody that's signed up here. I will be sending them out as well to every property manager so they can get their individuals to sign it, spread the word. We need to put the pressure on the county. That's it. That's it. If we do not put the pressure on, we're not going to get anything done.
Yes.
Okay? That's the bottom line. And on the petition, most of you read the buzzwords: turtle, property values, tourism. So we put the buzzwords in there. We just got to keep bombarding them. And yes, Glenn is doing a great job. Julie helped me out with Mr. Evans and the city manager getting this information on our petition. Sue has been a great ally. I'm always picking her brain. We're always going back and forth. I appreciate all your efforts. We do have the ear of the city. Now we need the county to get involved. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And they know everything they're telling us is BS. Okay? Because we talked to the contractor up north. Yeah, they can get them on the island. Okay? You're not coming on the island, no problem. So if you don't want to do it, get out of our way. We'll do it. Is that fair? Let's get these petitions out. Everybody had the petition on their desk. Make sure you all sign it here and bring it back up here, or I can go collect them. If you don't mind, let me know which way you want to handle it. Thank you to Corniche, Raphael, great job, and your team. Thank you for hosting us. Julie,
a couple of quick words.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
please, if you are interested in speaking with whoever is going to be our next state representative, come and meet them on Tuesday at the open house that we're having at the Ambassador Center. You can see the information about that on the COASI webpage. We want to thank Raphael again. I will put the slides with Sue's permission. I think we have it. I'll put her slides up on the COASI webpage, and there will be a video of this meeting on the COASI webpage in case you want to share it with other board members, other neighbors. COASI, Community Officers Association of Singer Islands, COASI.org. Look for the events page on there, and that's how you can see the information about the candidates form. Oh, 1229, next to the liquor store. 1229 Blue Heron, right there, down. Oh, thank you. 6 o'clock on Tuesday. 6 o'clock on Tuesday. Right about that. It's on our webpage. Thank you, Frank. It's on our webpage. So please come and meet them.
Julie, I just want to make a note that you can go on to YouTube to December 16th Town Hall meeting, and you will see the county environmental people speak at that meeting and explain to you what their position is. And you'll also get the county coastal engineers giving you an update on their study as well. So you can go on YouTube and get that information as well.
Thank you. We want to thank Raphael again for having us. We appreciate it. Thanks, Sue, so much for your expertise.
You're very welcome. On behalf of
Thank you.
the Cornish Board of Directors, Campbell Property Management, we thank you all.
See Barb Hanson here, and she announced your name to get
Everybody online, everyone who joined via Zoom, thank you very much for being via Zoom. Mrs. Paige Rose, Michael Schlosser, Sandy Warren, Malcolm Warren, Alexander Kapulski, Barbara Nicolo,